You'd imagine that anyone buying a ticket to the Toxic Avenger would have a clear idea of what they're walking into. But just like many infamous films before it, this reboot caught audiences completely off guard. What they expected and what they got were two very different things. And for some, that difference was enough to send them rushing to the exits. When the first details of this modern retelling were announced, fans noticed something off. The original Toxie was a grotesquely deformed creature with monstrous strength, a figure that blended horror with absurd superhero parody. But in this new version, with Peter Dinklage in the lead role, the character was scaled down, literally. Instead of towering muscle and deformity, Dinklage's Toxie was smaller, more human, and to some fans, underwhelming. And without creator Lloyd Kaufman directly steering the ship, excitement for this revival was shaky from the start. Reports soon surfaced about mass walkouts at screenings, particularly in the UK. Screen Rant highlighted incidents where crowds of confused moviegoers left in droves. But here's the twist. That reaction might actually prove the film is working exactly as director Macon Blair intended. Because the Toxic Avenger was never designed to please the mainstream. It was designed to shock, revolt, and divide. And that's exactly what happened. Despite its reputation for chaos, the reboot still holds an impressive 87% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Critics are praising its wild commitment to the spirit of the original, but casual audiences expecting a light horror comedy or quirky superhero romp weren't prepared for the unhinged, in-your-face insanity they got. The movie is packed with over-the-top violence, grotesque humor, and bizarre imagery that perfectly channels the legacy of trauma entertainment. This is a franchise that once featured a diaper-wearing mafia, a battle with the devil, and gallons of gore mixed with nudity. It was never meant for polite audiences, and this reboot stays loyal to that tradition. The controversy really took off during a Scream Unseen event at Odeon Cinemas in the UK. These surprise screenings are meant to be thrilling. Audiences buy a ticket without knowing what movie will play. For this one, the hints included the words independently disruptive and even scapegoat, a reference to Dinklage's Game of Thrones role. But for many who showed up, nothing could have prepared them for mop-based ultraviolence and gleeful absurdity. Reports claim as many as 40 people stormed out of one screening in Ireland alone, with similar reactions popping up at theaters across the UK. On social media, reactions captured the divide. One viewer described it as daft fun, but definitely a Marmite film. Others argued it was wasted on general audiences who had no idea what kind of bizarre ride they'd signed up for. Almost everyone agreed on one point. Fans who knew what a Toxic Avenger movie meant would have stayed put. This was never meant to appeal to everyone. It was always going to be a niche experience. And let's be honest, this movie was facing an uphill battle even before the first audience member walked out. Hollywood is flooded with remakes and reboots right now, and fans are fatigued. But the truth is, the Toxic Avenger has been reinvented again and again since the 1980s. Continuity was never its strength. One sequel flat out erased the previous two movies. Character names changed from film to film. Comics gave Toxie different personalities and motives. Even the Toxic Crusaders cartoon swapped social satire for alien invasions. So when fans complained about changes in the reboot, it's worth remembering. Nothing about this series was ever consistent. What really matters is the performance at the heart of it. Peter Dinklage, alongside Jacob Tremblay and co-star Taylor Page, delivers a Toxie that combines tragic humanity with grotesque absurdity. He's equal parts vulnerable and terrifying. Yes, even ripping faces off with his mop. Critics have noted the film is as polarizing as the original 4 entries, and that's not a bad thing. Walkouts don't necessarily mean failure. In fact, in the world of trauma, they're almost a badge of honor. Because the Toxic Avenger isn't trying to be a crowd pleaser. It's designed to disgust as much as it entertains, and the walkouts prove it succeeded in pushing boundaries. The fact that it still scored critical approval shows that for the right audience, this is exactly the movie they wanted. The anti-hero lives on, mops and all. But the Toxic Avenger isn't the first movie to spark these kinds of reactions, and it certainly won't be the last. Throughout cinema history, audiences have fled screenings for all sorts of reasons: nausea, terror, confusion, or pure frustration. Take The Walk, for example. In 2015, director Robert Zemeckis recreated French daredevil Philippe Petit's real-life tightrope walk between the Twin Towers. The 3D sequences were so immersive, some audience members literally got sick. CBS News reported that at least 10% of viewers experienced nausea or vertigo. It was so intense, people were warned not to eat big meals before attending. Then there's 127 Hours, Danny Boyle's retelling of Aaron Ralston's survival story. Starring James Franco, the film's infamous amputation scene sent waves of fainting and vomiting through theaters. Festivals reported multiple medical emergencies. But that same shocking realism earned the film 6 Oscar nominations, including Best Picture. Sometimes, though, walkouts aren't about gore. Terrence Malick's The Tree of Life divided audiences with its experimental storytelling. While critics hailed it as a masterpiece exploring the meaning of life itself, average moviegoers were baffled. Many demanded refunds, theaters posted warnings, and walkouts became part of the story. It wasn't terror or disgust, it was confusion and boredom. Other times, shaky camera work has been enough to send people running. Both The Blair Witch Project and Cloverfield left audiences nauseated thanks to their found footage styles. Some theaters even posted health warnings about motion sickness. Meanwhile, horror films like the Hills Have Eyes remake or Pasolini's infamous Salo pushed audiences out the door with sheer brutality. Cannibalism, sexual violence, and relentless gore made them simply unbearable for many. And yet, these films, much like The Toxic Avenger, often live on precisely because of those extreme reactions. Walkouts don't bury them. They cement their reputations as unforgettable, controversial, and impossible to ignore. Even mainstream films have caused surprising exits. Parents dragged children out of The Lion King after Mufasa's death proved too traumatic. Swiss Army Man, with Daniel Radcliffe as a farting corpse, cleared theaters at Sundance. And Lars von Trier's The House That Jack Built reportedly triggered over 100 walkouts at Cannes, even as others gave it a standing ovation. The pattern is clear. Movies that push limits, whether emotional, physical, or artistic, often end up making history. And The Toxic Avenger fits that mold perfectly. It's not polished. It's not safe. It's not trying to win over every casual moviegoer. Instead, it's proudly carrying the torch of one of cinema's strangest, most grotesque cult franchises. Walkouts are just part of its DNA. So, when you hear that people left the theater in disgust, don't take it as a sign of failure. Take it as proof that this reboot understood the assignment. It's not here to please everyone. It's here to make sure no one forgets it. And in that mission, it's already succeeded.